Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order packs a lot of story into its 15-hour campaign. From run-ins with Jedi hunting inquisitors and spacefaring gamblers with forearms, to encounters with giant space bird things, it has a dense narrative that straddles a lot of Star Wars lore and the odd cameo.
This is Master Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And while we're only really one game deep into the franchise, it's still well worth getting a little refresher on the story. So whether you played the original game back in 2019 and want a story recap for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, or maybe you're here because you want to know how Jedi Fallen Order slots into the canon timeline, let's break down the story so far. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order takes place in the year 14 BBY, which, put simply, means 14 years before the Battle of Yavin 4, a battle that culminated with the epic destruction of the Death Star seen in Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope. It's also about 5 years since the chilling events of Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith and the execution of Order 66, the galaxy-wide purge of the Jedi. So with that all in your mind, Fallen Order kicks off with young Jedi in hiding Cal Kestis on the scrapyard planet of Bracca. A former Padawan, Cal has successfully evaded the Empire and their Inquisitors, former Jedis turned Jedi hunters, until his mate Pralf nearly dies during an accident at work, and Cal has to use his Jedi Force powers to save him. And for anyone who's seen the Obi-Wan Kenobi telly show, as soon as a Jedi's prompted into saving an innocent life, little Force alarm bells start going for the Inquisitors. And lo and behold, the Inquisitors' second and ninth sisters turn up moments later to claim their Jedi bounty. In order to save his work colleagues, Pralf gives himself up as the Jedi outcast, but when the Inquisitors see through his sacrifice, they promptly murder him, which leads to Cal blowing his cover.
No!
The young Jedi escapes Bracca by the skin of his teeth, but not without help from a pair of mysterious travellers in the form of Seer Junda and Grease Dritus, who appear pretty much out of nowhere in their ship, the Mantis, and whisk Cal away to an old Jedi sanctuary on the planet of Bogano. And it's here where the plot of Jedi Fallen Order really starts to take shape. We learn that Seer was also once a Jedi, but that she's locked herself off from the Force for mysterious reasons. She needs Cal's help to access an ancient vault built by a race known as the Zepho, a vault only accessible to those strong in the Force. Naturally, Cal is a little hesitant to take up the whims of a complete stranger, but after the day he's had, he says, and I'm paraphrasing here, yeah sure, what the hell, why not? This turns out to be the best decision he's ever made, as it leads him straight into the path of the most adorable droid in the galaxy, BD-1. With BD in tow, the pair head off for the vault, with Cal remembering how to wall run along the way, as this is a respawn game and it's contractually obliged. I'm being incredibly glib there, as these lessons are actually framed as little flashbacks to when Cal was a Padawan in the Jedi Order, training with his master, Jaro Tapal, a Jedi from the Lasat race, the same race as Star Wars Rebels fan favourite Zeb Orrelios. At the vault, BD unveils a holographic message from an old Jedi Master known as Edo Cordova, which states that he's hidden a Jedi holocron with a list of Force-sensitive children within the vault. The catch? Well, Cal needs to travel to 3 Zepho tombs spread across the galaxy, because let's not forget, this is a video game, and we need places to explore. From Bogano, the game branches out into several more worlds. The first is the Zepho homeworld, and the second is Dathomir, which fans of the Clone Wars animated series will undoubtedly know as the home of the creepy Night Sisters, as well as the birthplace of one Darth Maul.
I am surprised you could have forgotten me so easily.
Which should give you some indication that it's perhaps not the friendliest place in the galaxy. If you're like me, you probably opted for Dathomir to get that sweet double-bladed lightsaber, while dying a fair few times at the hands of the Night Brothers in the process. If that sounds like you, chances are you probably also met the Night Sister Merrin, as well as a mysterious wanderer who claims to be searching for Zepho ruins on the planet. Don't forget this creepy lad, as he'll be cropping up later on. As Dathomir presents nothing but dead ends at this stage, the Mantis crew's next port of call is the windswept wastes of Zepho, where it turns out the Empire have been very busy with an aborted mining project known as Project Augur. Naturally, they're still knocking about in significant numbers, but that doesn't stop Cal and BD venturing deep into the bowels of the planet to discover one of the Zepho tombs Cordova has been banging on about. In this Diet Zelda dungeon, Cal relearns his Force push ability, while BD discovers another holographic message from Cordova, which points them in the direction of the Wookiee homeworld of Kashyyyk, and their chieftain, Tarful, who was a close friend of Cordova's. Landing on Kashyyyk is something of a problem though, as the Mantis crew find themselves in the middle of a raging battle between the Empire, the Wookiees, and a group of freedom fighters, led by grizzled war veteran Saw Gerrera, seen here nearly 15 years before his fateful part in the theft of the Death Star plans in Rogue One. Unable to land, Cal and BD take a plunge into the waters of Kashyyyk and hijack their way onto an AT-AT, in an awesome sequence that's equal parts Uncharted and Shadow of the Colossus. After taking out an entire platoon of stormtroopers, Cal and the Mantis team rendezvous with Saw and his insurgents, who are in the middle of relinquishing a sap refinery from Empire control. Cal agrees to help in the hope of finding the whereabouts of Tarful, who is absolutely nowhere to be found once they take the refinery back and free the enslaved Wookiees. Just as he's about to venture deeper into the rainforest of Kashyyyk, Cere urgently drags him back to the Mantis after receiving word that the Empire are close to discovering another tomb back on Zeffo. The crew rush back to Zeffo to beat the Empire to the punch, but
It's a trap!
while it's true that the Empire have discovered a second Zeffo tomb, the message Cere received was a trap laid by the second sister, who ambushes Cal and, shock twist, reveals herself to be Cere's former Jedi Padawan, Trilla. After a fierce battle in which Cal is completely out of his depth, he manages to escape Trilla only through the timely intervention of your pal and mine, BD-1. Escaping into the second Zeffo tomb, the Tomb of Mictril, Cal and BD start scouring the ancient ruins for any clues left behind by Cordova. On their jolly old way, they're ambushed by Trilla for a second time in the span of half an hour,
Which is just bad form for a Jedi. They should be able to sense this sort of stuff.
Either way, they manage to escape while Cal relearns another Jedi technique, this time Force Pull, and BD discovers another encrypted log from Eno Cordova, which explains that the key to the Bogano Vault is something known as the Zeffo Astrium. But on their way off-world, the pair run into a spot of bother in the form of a bounty hunter. Cal wakes up in an unknown jail in an unknown place, hell, even in an unknown system. Turns out he's in the lair of the infamous Haxion Brood, a cartel of mobsters who kidnap Cal to get to the Mantis' pilot Grease, who's racked up a pretty penny a debt in his time.
Between this and Cere's withholding of her ties to the second sister, I'd be pretty pissed off if I was Cal.
He takes his anger out on a veritable menagerie of beasts laid on for him by the Haxion Brood, in a gladiator-like coliseum. This batch of bloodthirsty entertainment is put on hold when the Mantis crash lands right into the middle of the arena to rescue Cal. Back aboard the Mantis, Cal lays into Cere about, well, everything, but their squabble is cut short by a transmission from Kashyyyk with the supposed location of Tarful. Landing again on the Wookiee homeworld, Cal and BD venture their way through Kashyyyk's Shadowlands to the last known location of the Wookiee chieftain, where they finally catch up with him. He immediately sends them on their way to the Origin Tree, basically a big sacred evergreen for the Wookiees, where they encounter the mystical Shio bird. After a tussle between the Shio bird and the Ninth Sister's ship, Cal and BD nurse the giant bird back to health, and for their troubles, they get a lift right to the top of the tree, which is handily where they want to be. At the top, they discover that Cordova has found an Astrium years before, and that there might just be another one in a Zeffo tomb back on Dathomir. But before they can hightail it back to the world of the Night Sisters, the Ninth Sister, oof, that's confusing, ambushes the pair and kicks off another boss battle.
Found you again! You're done hurting this world.
Cal, now with a little experience fighting Inquisitors under his belt, manages to dispatch the Ninth Sister by force pushing her right off the top of the tree. Have that! And with that, the pair hitch a lift with the Shio bird back to the Mantis and their next destination of Dathomir.
Right, back to Dathomir, the story takes us on a rather lengthy diversion through the bowels of this wonderfully hospitable planet.
En route to the Zeffo Temple, Cal and BD are not only ambushed by the Night Brothers, again, but by Merrin, who unleashes a horde of undead Night Sisters on the unwitting pair, before the coup de grace in the form of the dreaded Gorgara, a giant winged bat dragon thing that hunts the pair through the skies of Dathomir. Regardless of the perils of this scenic detour, the pair finally make it to the Zeffo Temple, where Cal encounters a dark force vision of his old Jedi Master, Jaro Tapal, who overpowers his former apprentice and destroys the young Jedi's lightsaber in the process.
And former Jedi Masters are like London buses, it seems.
As soon as he's able to escape the Zepho temple, Cal bumps back into the creepy wanderer from earlier, who reveals himself to be Taron Malachus, a former Jedi who has now become something of a wrong'un by studying the dark side of the Force. Before he can recruit Cal into his nefarious plans, he's interrupted by Merrin, who literally raises hell in her attempts to destroy them both. Cal, without a lightsaber to defend himself, escapes back to the Mantis through sheer luck, and having been through an emotional and physical roller coaster, he immediately opens up to Seer about his traumatic experience of Order 66, which he also escaped by the skin of his teeth. His former master, Jaro Tapal, wasn't as lucky, it turns out, and Cal has blamed himself for his death ever since. With his lightsaber in tatters, Seer gifts Cal her own hilt, and charts a course for the planet of Ilum, where young Jedi Padawans used to visit to find kyber crystals for their first lightsabers.
It's the choice to keep fighting that makes us who we are.
After landing on the ice planet, Cal and BD venture deep into a set of caves that lead out from an ancient Jedi temple. With the kyber crystal calling out to him, Cal makes his way towards it only for the ice beneath him to shatter, throwing him into an icy pool. He's saved by the ever-reliable BD, who's tallied up a fair few rescues of Cal by this point. But the kyber crystal isn't so lucky, splitting into two pieces. Cal, armed with both his old master's lightsaber and Seer's, combines them both with the two crystal pieces to create a Frankenstein's monster of a weapon that can be single-bladed, double-bladed and dual-wielded, which is just having your cake and eating it if you ask me. With a flashy new weapon and a newfound sense of purpose, Cal journeys back to Dathomir to face evil Jaro Tapal once again, and this time defeats him by, well, doing nothing.
That's a gross simplification, because he's obviously doing Jedi stuff, but you know what I mean.
After defeating Jaro, Cal and BD enter the Zepho temple and encounter Merrin once again, who seems a little bit more receptive to talking than before. The pair bond around the morbid topic that they've both survived massacres of their respective people, Cal with the Jedi during Order 66, and Merrin with General Grievous's slaughter of the Night Sisters back during the Clone Wars. This, combined with the fact that Cal disavows Taron Malachus, sees Merrin side with the young Jedi and become a powerful ally for the Mantis crew, and she makes this support known with her part in dispatching Taron in battle moments later.
Dathomir will be your grave!
With the wayward Jedi a thing of the past, Cal and Merrin venture forth into the temple to secure the Astrium, and with that in the bag, the Mantis crew set sail for Bogano and the Zepho Vault.
You found it.
Oh, well, who's this? What's that supposed to mean?
It means I'll be joining you.
Back at the vault, Cal uses the Astrium to secure the Jedi holocron, but is immediately thrust into a vision of the Empire's purge of Jedi younglings. Snapping out of the vision, Cal comes face to face with Trilla once again, and this time he's able to overpower her. But in the process of nabbing her lightsaber, Cal is swept up into yet another vision, this time spurred on by the darkness in Trilla's weapon. And this vision is nearly as brutal as the last, detailing Trilla's capture and torture at the hands of the Empire, as well as her master Seer's escape. While Cal is on his Jedi mind trip, Trilla escapes with the holocron back to the Inquisitor's HQ, the Fortress Inquisitorius, which is basically a giant space castle in the middle of a vast ocean. It's not exactly a cheery place. Cal comes to and hightails it back to the crew, and the newly formed quintet decide to chase after the holocron. Using some nifty space magic, courtesy of bona fide space witch Merrin, they're able to slip by the brace of Star Destroyers protecting the Inquisitor's base and get down to the planet. There, in a sequence that the Obi-Wan Kenobi show liberally riffed on, Cal and Seer infiltrate the base, confront Trilla, and take the holocron back by force.
So far, so easy. But where's that heavy breathing coming from?
Oh yeah, it's the devil under a suit of metal himself, Darth Vader, who's decided to join the fight. He promptly murders Trilla in cold blood before force-flinging Seer to her supposed death. No! Cal, the cocky fool that he is, puts up a wholehearted fight before realising, yeah, maybe I'm a little out of my depth here. He makes a run for it, escaping Vader's attacks by the barest of all margins, and is finally rescued by Seer, who uses the Force for the first time in, like, forever to stall Vader's attacks. Cal repays the favour by attempting to flood Vader at the bottom of the Inquisitor's base of operations. While Vader's holding back the flood, Cal and Seer escape with a little help from Merrin. And finally, back aboard the Mantis with the Jedi holocron secure in their possession, Cal makes the executive decision to destroy it, and the knowledge of the whereabouts of the galaxy's Force-sensitive children.
So where to now?
Well, some of the where to now is actually answered in the tie-in novel Battle Scars, which takes place between Fallen Order and Survivor. The book largely chronicles the misadventures of the Mantis crew in their attempts to secure a cloaking device known as the Shroud, as well as its creator from Imperial control. It's a fun little read that explains some of the visual details that will be seen in Survivor, notably Cal's facial scar and the backstory as to why Grease now has a robotic arm.
And with that, bring on Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Thanks so much for watching this story recap, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing where the story goes next. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you next time.